Now, I'm going to talk about the obstacles and the 8 winds and how do they relate to our happiness. Okay, let me start. About the 8 winds. Buddhism teaches of the 8 winds or 8 influences that can obstruct our Buddhist practice. A bodhisattva is able to view these phenomena as obstacles and, undisturbed by them, persevere with steadfast faith. The higher a mountain, the stronger the winds that strike it. The peaks of the Himalayas, the king of all mountain ranges, are constantly pounded by violent winds. According to weather data, winter temperatures in the Himalayas may drop to as low as minus 40 degrees, and relentless icy gales sometimes reach speeds of more than 100 meters per second. But in even the strongest wind, the king of mountain ranges towers with majestic dignity and imperturbable calm. Buddhism teaches that we should live our lives with the perfect serenity and composure of the Himalayas, not bending in the least before the 8 winds, which might otherwise extinguish the flame of our Buddhist practice. In his writing, The 8 Winds, Nichiren Daishonin states, "Wise persons deserve to be called so because they are not carried away by the 8 winds. Prosperity, decline, disgrace, honor, praise, censure, suffering, and pleasure. They are neither elated by prosperity nor grieved by decline. The heavenly gods will surely protect one who is unbending before the 8 winds." The 8 winds consist of 4 favorable winds and 4 unfavorable winds. The first 4, which people generally favor and tend to seek, are 1. Prosperity, 2. Honor, 3. Praise or admiration, 4. Pleasure, either physical or spiritual. The remaining 4, which people on the whole find disagreeable and tend to shun, are decline, which means loss of various kinds, disgrace, being dishonored or humiliated, criticism, being criticized or disparaged, and suffering. Buddhism teaches that we must not allow ourselves to be swayed by the 8 winds and let them cause us to abandon our Buddhist practice. One Buddhist scripture states that the mind of a bodhisattva who does not succumb to the 8 winds is as firm and unmoving as Mount Sumeru. Bodhisattvas are courageous individuals who plunge headlong into the very thick of society to lead others to happiness. What kind of character should bodhisattvas possess? Shakyamuni asserts that they should have hearts that are invulnerable to assaults from the 8 winds. The Daishonin warns against succumbing to the 8 winds, stating that those who can remain unaffected by them are not only wise, but will receive the protection of the heavenly deities, the positive forces of the universe. Why is that? In the face of an endless onslaught of attacks, the Soka Gakkai has managed to achieve such remarkable development in Japan and around the globe. It is because all of you have persevered with sincere, steadfast faith, unswayed by the 8 winds, just as the Daishonin teaches. That is why we have been thoroughly protected by the heavenly deities. President Toda said, "We should neither be elated by praise nor alarmed by insults. It is important that our faith be unwavering." Refusing to be swayed by any of the 8 winds, Let us continue to build an even more majestic and dignified mountain of the Soka Gakkai that will last for all eternity. Let us make it as lofty and grand as that king of mountain ranges, the Himalayas. Now, what I've talked about are just theories, and theories are words. It's always easier said than done. I mean, when you are scolded, we get upset, we get angry. When some people say nice things about us, give us compliments, then we're happy. I mean, we're human beings. It's very difficult for us to be not swayed by all those compliments or criticisms. It's not easy. This is why we need to practice Nichiren Buddhism and chant and chant and chant so that we can elevate our life conditions. So when we are being scolded or criticized, we will not be affected, or we'll very soon get over it. Or when people praise us, well, surely we are happy, but we will not be overjoyed and carried away. I think this is the best we can do as human beings. It takes a long time of practice to be not swayed by the 8 winds. Okay, let me go on. Well, there is no hardship we cannot surmount. With strong faith, President Ikeda says, we can overcome any hardship, transforming it into an opportunity to open up the life state of Buddhahood within us. Explaining the principle that strong faith leads to strong protection by the positive forces of the universe, the Daishonin writes, I say this for your sake. I know your faith has always been admirable, but now you must strengthen it more than ever. Only then will the 10 demon daughters lend you even greater protection. Now, the 10 demon daughters are protective deities. They can protect us if we are practicing right. However hard we may have exhorted ourselves in the past, the important thing is how we challenge ourselves from now on. We need to rouse even stronger faith than we have before. The heavenly deities, or benevolent features of the universe, will protect us if we do. The appearances of the 3 powerful enemies and the 3 obstacles and 4 devils of any kind of hardship is simply a test of faith, necessary for us to bring forth the life state of Buddhahood. Well, I think a long time ago, I have shared an experience about the test of faith. I cannot remember the details, but I think I have shared it in my YouTube. When I came back to Australia from Hong Kong, one after another, things happened that really make me work very hard and really affected my physical and spiritual being. So to me, I called it a test of faith, because seemingly bad things happen one after another. But even though they happened, I've got protective deities who help me. I think I remember one incident was when I came back from Hong Kong. There are a lot of bugs, I don't know how to call it, but flying fleas that came from my pantry, because I've been keeping herbal medicine in the pantry without properly sealed. And so once I opened the cabinet, my whole apartment, my whole house was full of those fleas or bugs or whatever. They're flying everywhere, and it was really scary. And we used all sorts of things. I tried to use all sorts of things to eliminate them, but they're just everywhere. It was very scary. But fortunately, William helped me to eliminate them, and he bought me all sorts of things to try to extinguish them. So that was a blessing. But I learned my lesson from then, that is never keep any herb or medicine without properly sealed. Okay, let me go on. But I always get protection, even though when I have problems. That is why strengthening our faith even further is the way to overcome hardships and to triumph. As long as we have strong faith, there is no hardship we cannot overcome. As the Daishonin states, since we believe solely in the Lotus Sutra, we can enter the treasure tower of the Gohonsen. Embracing the Gohonsen of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and striving to realize Gosen Rufu enables us to enter the realm of Buddhahood. That is the palace of happiness within our lives. Wherever we are and whatever our circumstances, we have no reason to worry and nothing to fear. As at the beginning of the practice, when my daughter lost half of her blood because of stomach ulcer, I was quite worried, and my senior member, when she was driving me to the hospital, she said, "Why worry? If you worry, which means that you have no faith. If you have faith, you do not worry." And her words still stick into my mind up to this step. Daishonin writes, no matter how many terrible enemies you have encountered, banish all fears and never think of backsliding. Please engrave deep in your hearts the Daishonin's words that we should have no fear and never discard our faith. We encounter obstacles precisely because we are practicing Buddhism correctly, such as when the aeroplane tries to take off, the force of the wind was so strong. But because the wind was so strong, the airplane had even exert more power to take off. Well, without the forces, the negative forces, maybe the plane would not even be able to exert the power to take off. Likewise, if we have obstacles, we will pull our sleeves up and strive to overcome them and then gain power and faith in the process. When we dauntlessly tackle those obstacles, we can attain a vast life state of genuine peace and ease, because after you tackle a problem or overcome an obstacle, you have more faith, you believe in yourself, you feel very strong. The Daishonin says, you should understand that when one practices the Lotus Sutra under such circumstances, difficulties will arise, and these are to be looked on as peace and comfort. Peace and comfort are not usually the words that come to mind when we encounter difficulties or sufferings. Normally, we would think of peace and comfort as being found amid tranquil and secure circumstances, but that is not the source of true peace and comfort. When we strive in Buddhist practice for the sake of the happiness of ourselves and others in the latter day of the law, obstacles are certain to arise. True peace and comfort are attained by facing obstacles and challenging hardships head-on. Experiencing difficulties is proof that we are making great efforts to persevere in faith. Now, if we practice correctly, we just believe that we've got the power to overcome every problem and every difficulties. And in doing so, we rise above. This is why when we have problems, we can still remain peace and calm because we know we can handle them. That is the important point of our practice. When a boat sets out on a long journey, it's bound to encounter fierce storms and powerful waves. But unless it weathers them and presses on, it cannot reach the harbor of destination. For us, the harbor we aim for is Buddhahood. If we fear the storms of hardship and the raging waves of difficulty we may encounter along the way, we cannot reach our goal of Buddhahood. In short, faith is a battle between the Buddha and devilish functions. For example, Shakyamuni fought against his devilish twin before he got enlightened. His devilish twin said, "Look at you, you are going to die, you are so weak, please give up what you are doing." But then the higher self of Shakyamuni Buddha ignore this comment and just say, acknowledge it, thank you, and then the next minute, he was enlightened. So the only way to realize true peace and comfort is to develop, through that struggle, a strong life state that will not be defeated by difficulties. What I would like you to bear deeply in mind is that the state of absolute peace and comfort that no obstacle can destroy comes from establishing strong faith that can withstand any adversity. In the long course of your lives, you may experience setbacks or failures, but I hope you will never allow yourselves to be discouraged or defeated. Live out your lives as Lion Kings. Faith means to have unflagging hope. May each of you always have hope and forge ahead with courage and wisdom as you strive to fulfill the great vow for Kozen Rufu. I remember seeing a YouTube explaining Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And the person in the YouTube says, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo means hope. We always need to hope. Hope for the better, for ourselves and other people. And it's only with hope you can go on living happily and courageously. Obstacles enable us to polish our lives. Stressing that hardships and obstacles enable us to polish our lives. President Ikeda explains that the very circumstances of that trouble is to help us reveal our Buddhahood. The Daishonin refers to it as to teach us that the more that practitioners of the Lotus Sutra encounter obstacles, the brighter their lives shine. He also writes, the world is the domain of the devil king of the sixth heaven. As a result, good people are harassed and evil people do what they like. Kozen Rufu is a movement to fundamentally transform this upside-down state of affairs. To shine even more brightly, the more obstacles we face. This also provides an important lesson in the area of human relations. An organization is a gathering of all kinds of individuals. There may be some who are not easy to work with. Sometimes, the behavior of others may really annoy or upset us. But such things make the golden mountain of our lives shine. Well, lately, a new member contacted me, and she said she's been harassed by her new boss, who was very harsh and scolded her and wanted her to leave. And I just told her, all the problems that we encounter, the root cause lies within ourselves. Instead of blaming the manager, I asked this member to look into herself and see whether she has done her work to the satisfaction of her boss, or whether she is not respect because the boss is much younger than she is and she has more experience, whether she's respecting her boss. Or because it all reflects in her behavior. Maybe this is why the boss didn't like her. So, yeah, when people upset us or situation upset us, please look into ourselves and see what we have done wrong and what we have to do to correct the situation. If everyone in our lives was perfect, we would never grow. Working together with people we may not get along well is a way to polish our golden mountain. Having said that, this member I just talked about, really, I was kind of troubled by her because she made an appointment with me to talk to me, and it was 10 o'clock in Sydney time, and I waited to stay up at 10 o'clock, and I tried to call her and to be told that she mistaken because she thought she didn't know the Sydney time, so it was 7 o'clock, she was just in transport and so forth. And to be honest, I was not very happy about it because I stayed up to talk to her. And then next time she wanted to talk to me, so I said 2 hours later, and then in 1.5 hours, she tried to call me. I said, I'm not ready yet. And so we made an appointment to speak to each other at maybe 2 hours later, another 2 hours later, because she said she had to have lunch. So I was ready to talk to her in 2 hours' time. And then got a message from her. She said, I have to delay for another hour. So, I have to say that I'm not happy about all this, because I think she's not respecting my time. She's wasting my time because I kept waiting for her and waiting for her. And finally, I got upset, actually, honestly. And finally, I said, okay, this is for me to help me do my human revolution. I should have more patience and compassion to this member. So I'm still trying. So now, instead of trying to talk to her, I ask her to write me the messages. So there's no time limit. I can reply to her anytime. So this is my way of handling things. Okay, let me go on. Quite frankly, we ourselves may not always behave as admirably as we like. So how can we expect others to behave just as we want them to? Now, I'm talking this to myself. So about this member. Getting upset at each little incident doesn't improve anything, nor does it change the other person. Sometimes you just have to sigh and think, well, that's the way he is, and accept the other person with compassion. So I changed my way of communicating and asked her to write down her problems instead of calling me. So that handles the problem. So the Daishonin writes, like the various rivers flowing into the sea, like logs making a fire burn more briskly. Tian Tai is saying that the reason the sea is so vast is that many different rivers flow into it, and the sea accepts them all. So I'm telling myself that I should be accepting the imperfections or the wrong behavior of other people. I'm still learning, to be honest. If the sea rejected one river or another, it wouldn't be the great vast sea. If we reject and avoid people we don't like, we can't develop a self that is as vast and expansive as the ocean. I'm talking to myself too, because sometimes if I dislike somebody, I will try to stay away from them. Well, I just have to learn and change. The logs of unhappiness fuel the flames of happiness. Because we experience hardships, we can know joy. Buddhism teaches that the sufferings of earthly desires lead to enlightenment. Problems enable us to grow. There is no such thing as unalloyed or unremitting happiness. The Daishonin even says that who gives us the hardest time are those who, more than anyone else, help us attain Buddhahood. Just like the member is helping me to polish my character. This is so true. Now I'm going to share with you a story written by Sensei about his experience with President Toda. He says, an impasse is a critical turning point. Reflecting on his own history of striving together with his mentor, President Ikeda explains that we can bring forth great underlying strength when we struggle through adversity. So here begins his story. He says, in 1950, my mentor Jose Toda businesses were in crisis. The situation was so dire that Mr. Toda even stepped down from his position as Soka Gakkai General Director to protect the organization from being embroiled in his business problems. He was unable to pay his employees, who quit one after another, until I was left as his sole support. Mr. Toda was a great leader of Kosen Rufu. firmly convinced that protecting him was the equivalent of protecting the Soka Gakkai and the heritage of faith of Nichiren Buddhism. I did everything I possibly could to assist and support him. One day, Mr. Toda and I were on our way to Omiya City, hoping to gain the financial means to break through the impasse that Mr. Toda's businesses were facing. Unfortunately, our effort did not meet with success. On the way back, we walked along the banks of the Arakawa River. The night wind was cold. The stars above were beautiful, shining down upon the two of us, mentor and disciple, who had failed in our attempt that day. The laces of my worn shoes, which had several holes, came undone. As I retied them, I began singing a popular song, hoping to cheer Mr. Toda up. I humorously changed the lyric, "In the flow of the stars, who turned me into this kind of woman," into "the flow of the stars, who turned me into this kind of man." With a smile, Mr. Toda swiftly rejoined, "I did." In the midst of a genuine desperate situation, he retained his sense of humor. I was relieved. In fact, I was happy. As long as Mr. Toda was alive and well, there was nothing to fear. Rather, knowing this inspired me, his disciple, to keep fighting my hardest, to carry on the struggle until we had won. Now, we have to adopt this spirit. We have to continue fight and fight until we win. This is the spirit we must adopt. Let me go on. Mr. Toda would often say to me, "An impasse is a critical turning point. Do you give up and throw in the towel? Or do you stand up with indomitable resolve, determined to go on fighting?" That difference in attitude is what determines victory or defeat. Mr. Toda deeply and firmly impressed this lesson on me. Listen to me, Daisaku. Whatever happens along the way, triumph in the end. Resolve to win. If you win in the end, you will have won in everything. Now, me talking. I remember the member who taught me chanting did tell me, she said, "Lydia, we have to win. Buddhism is about winning. If we do not win, we will affect all the other members in the organization. So we have to win." This is what she taught me, and I still remember. Okay, let me go on. President Ikeda says, "My days back then were a continuous, intense struggle. I had no time for self-pity. I knew in the depths of my being that an eternal, ever-victorious, indestructible bastion was being built within me. As I strove tirelessly to support my mentor with the spirit of exerting millions of eons of effort. From the resonance of our spirits as mentor and disciple, and in the light of the uncompromising law of cause and effect taught in Buddhism, I was strongly convinced that I would experience brilliant future reward, and he did. Eventually, we made our way through this raging storm of troubles, and on May 3rd, the following year, the morning of victory dawned as Mr. Toda was inaugurated as the second Soka Gakkai president. It is only when we struggle against adversity that the tremendous power residing in the very depths of our lives begin to reveal itself. Now, let me share with you a story which I've told everybody before. It's a real life story. There was a woman whose child was being hit by a car, and the child was beneath the car. And at that time, the woman without even thinking, pushed up the car to pull out her child. Now, where did this energy come from? We human beings have tremendous energy inside us, but we don't realize it until the very, very critical moment that the energy will emerge. But with practicing Nichiren Buddhism, we do not need to wait until this dying or critical moment to exert our power. With our everyday chanting, the power will emerge. We know we've got the power to do everything. For me, for instance, as I told everybody, last month I fell and I hurt my wrist badly. It was so bad that I had to undergo a surgery and put an implant, a plate into my wrist. It was, and then I was not able to move my wrist, not even the fingers, for a couple of weeks. And then I began to heal quickly. And the doctor and the physio said that I would not be able to drive for 6 weeks. But then slowly, I began to feel that my hands are moving better and better. And now I think in 3 weeks' time, in less than 3 weeks, I can drive. Not very long distances, but I know I can drive. So this is the strength that I got from chanting. Our situation will not be the same as other people because we've got chanting, we've got the power, we've got faith in ourselves. Those who can summon great strength at the most challenging time are victors. This is an unchanging rule of history. So let me share with you an experience, quite interesting. It's a guy who didn't have enough money to pursue his dreams, but he ended up victorious. I know a lot of people are struggling with no money. So this is why I'm sharing this experience with everybody. Let me begin. This member says, I was raised in what you could call a below average middle class family. I grew up in an environment where our electricity was constantly turned off, and we survived just on porridge with soy sauce for months when money was scarce. At one point, I risked having my education terminated due to my family's inability to pay the school fees. This financial situation made me discouraged. I was always feeling hungry, and I lamented at my karma for being born into this family. There were times when I resorted to stealing from my mother to fulfill my self-indulgent needs. But the next moment, I would feel guilty. Financial security ruled a very large part of my life growing up. On top of this, in school, I was slow in picking things up and barely passed our primary school leaving examination. I managed to enter the normal technical stream, where I stayed for 6 years in secondary school due to my poor academic results. In 1990, my father introduced me to Nichiren Buddhism. I became very active in Singapore Soccer Association, and it was there where my faith, practice, and study strengthened tremendously. Through my assiduous practice, I experienced immense conspicuous and inconspicuous benefits. One unforgettable experience I had was securing money to pursue my overseas education. This was one of the greatest examples of actual proof of benefit from my faith in the Gohonzen. I finally understood the words. Fear knocks on the door, faith answered. Never let the lack of money deter you from pursuing your dreams. These were the words shared by my senior member, who, despite their own financial hardships, eventually triumphed through the power of faith and went on to pursue their dreams of an overseas education. In 1999, I started making plans towards pursuing my long-cherished dream of going overseas for my maritime studies. At that time, the local university did not offer any undergraduate courses in this area of studies. Bearing my seniors' words in mind, I plucked up my courage to apply for study in the United Kingdom and United States, despite not having any money to do so. When I saw this, I sort of laughed a little bit at his courage. Anyway, let me go on. President Ikeda's novel, The Human Revolution, became my constant companion and source of motivation during that time. One chapter that inspired me in particular was the determination. Now, this is a very, very important word, determination. President Ikeda wrote, "Anyone would think victory is impossible, and that's probably how you feel right now. But don't forget this marvelous Gohansen we have. It has the power to transform what you normally think impossible into something possible. Those who give up before they don't really try, they don't know the power of the mystic law." Buddhism is reason. Hence, apart from our faith and practice, I took concrete actions. Now, actions is very, very important. If you just chant and chant without action, then it's superstition. He took action by writing letters directly to several maritime companies and charitable foundations asking for financial support. I started my Daimoku campaign at least 3 to 4 hours daily and became increasingly active in all SGI activities. I was eventually accepted into 2 universities, and I chose to attend one university in the United Kingdom. However, 3 months before I was due to go, all my applications for financial aid were rejected. It was either that the companies did not have any sponsorship policy, or I did not have those stellar academic credentials to justify the aid. I was deflated. My life condition hit rock bottom. My prayers became weak-willed. In fact, I began to harbor doubts in the Gohansen. At the point when I was about to give up faith altogether, a chance meeting with a soccer member, Lily Long, transformed my perspective towards faith. She shared that President Toda used to say that even though our wallets may be empty, there was an abundance of money floating about in the world, but it just hasn't come out into our way. That's all. But if we accumulate good fortune, using it to drill a hole into the vast reservoir of money and tap some for ourselves, we will never have to be wanting. Lily further quoted words from the book, The Human Revolution, and urged me to pray earnestly, as though to produce fire from damp wood, or to obtain water from the parched ground. Witnessing Lily's conviction in her faith became the major turning point for me. Now, let me share. The senior member who taught me chanting, she did say that money has got 48 legs, L-E-G-S. If you accumulate enough good fortune, the 48 legs will run after you and jump into your pocket. But if you do not have enough good fortune, you've got 2 legs. You can never run after the 48 legs of money. So this is why it's very important for us to accumulate good fortune. How? By chanting, by practicing Nichiren Buddhism, by Kosen Rufu, by encouraging other members. This is the way, by human revolution. This is the way to accumulate good fortune. If you've done all of that, the money will come to you. You don't have to run after them. Okay, let me go on. Witnessing Lily's conviction that in her faith became the major turning point for me. I profoundly realized then that my life is Buddhahood itself. and there is no such thing as cowardly Buddha. With renewed determination, I increased my daimoku, continued to share Buddhism with others passionately, and participated in all SGI activities. This profoundly and swiftly elevated my life state, and I derived tremendous joy from my practice. 1 month before I was due to depart, when everything seemingly impossible, due to President Toda's words, I found a sponsor who agreed to pay my tuition fees and living expenses for my entire 2 years education without any repayment. Another amazing experience preceding this was that in my application for financial aid, I had forgotten to include my contact number. And yet, the director who picked up my application actually traveled all the way from his house in the west of Singapore to the east to pay me a home visit. I was really moved by his sincerity and was so grateful that he did not discard any application because of my oversight. Now, this person is a Sultan Sanjin indeed. Eventually, I received a check which provided me more than enough funds to fulfill my second dream of completing my research work at the United Nations on trade and development in Geneva. I was even able to pay for my parents to attend my graduation ceremony as well. As a normal technical student, 2-time O-level candidate, and having failed in my first semester at the Polytech, I would never expect a failure like me could still pursue an overseas education. Undaunted by my past setbacks, I worked very hard. I set goal to chant minimum 3 hours of Daimoku daily and came up with detailed study plans. Such disciplined routine energized me greatly. I was in rhythm with the mystic law, never forgetting my gratitude to the Gohonsen. Again, he mentions gratitude, which is very, very important. I actively involved myself in SGI UK activities. I joined SGI UK equivalent of the Young Lion Group and actively shared Buddhism, Nichiren Buddhism with others. Eventually, 2 of my friends started practicing and received their Gohonsen in the UK. As a result of my dedicated practice and committed towards my studies, at the end of my 2 years, having overcame my self-doubt, I topped my class and graduated with a first-class honors degree and was awarded the United Kingdom Institute of Transport and Logistics Book Prize. I had finally made the impossible to become possible. So this is all I have to share today. Thank you very much for